You say you wanna come ride with us?
Yeah.
What you gonna do though, like, if you get caught?
I ain't snitch. I went to juvie. I actually went to juvie because I teacher with scissors. And you can actually, I chased my teacher with scissors.
Yeah?
I chased my teacher
That shit is not
with
cool,
scissors.
cuz.
They said, oh, you're going to juvie for 3 months.
Yeah, Kings, you gotta chill though, but that's not cool.
Doing shit for a story.
It's not cool to be bad.
It is cool. You know why?
Why?
Because I'm just trying to be like my idol,
Who your idol?
King Von.
What the?
Now that clip that I just played you, I thought was kind of like
This
skit when I,
society,
you know,
this
first
generation
came
is
across it,
fucking
but
lost.
It's actually real.
Yo, what it do, YouTube, man? I'm not want to waste time, so I'll get straight into it. You feel me? Today, about to reacting to the YN mindset is ruining society. I mean, I definitely believe that, but let's see what key aspects that they point out. You know what I'm saying?
Now, if you're on certain spaces of TikTok and social media, I'm sure a lot of people have heard the term YN. Not to be confused with Young Ninja. YN stands for Young Nigga, which is a slang popularized by rap culture. The
Like,
term is
nigga got
supposed
on
to
a
represent
security
young
doing
black men,
what?
mostly teens, and is heavily associated with the image of a black face, often in connection with erratic behavior, which 99% of the time involves hurting people, whether that be stealing, robbing, or just being belligerent. However, this term is not defined by skin color. It's more a mindset that the new generation of young people are taking on.
And they think that shit cool. I feel like the younger generation is brainwashed by social media because it's getting pushed into their face. They're getting brainwashed by propaganda. That's how I see it, bro.
Children as young as 10 being influenced by the behaviors that come with this term, and they're mainly being influenced by it through different forms of media, social media being the main one. But we also have music, specifically rappers, promoting this way of showing up in the world. A lot of the violent behavior from young people being publicized on social media right now can be connected to this mindset as well. And in this video, I want to talk about why the YN mindset is slowly ruining society. Rapper King Von, who died back in 2020, might be the poster boy for this conversation, because Von was not only the physical representation of what the YN term is associated with, which is a black face, but King Von was also big on being a menace to society. That's what Von not only spoke about in his music, but he took pride in being the way he was. And then he got himself into an altercation in November 2020 and got himself killed. Now Von is just one example out of many, but he was a famous rapper.
That's not a pun, but crazy story.
Managed to, at the very least, reap the rewards from operating this way. Through the means of making a bunch of money from his music, he gained a lot of notoriety, fame, and recognition during his short-lived career. And although Von isn't here anymore, his music continues to influence kids all over the world in a negative way.
You say you wanna come ride with us?
Yeah.
What you gonna do though, like, if you get caught?
I ain't snitch. I went to juvie. I actually went to juvie because I teacher with scissors. And you can actually, I chased my teacher with scissors.
Yeah?
I chased my teacher
That shit is not cool, cuz.
They said, oh, you're going to juvie for 3 months.
Yeah, Kings, you gotta chill though, but that's not cool.
Doing shit for a story.
It's not cool to be bad.
It is cool. You know why?
Why?
Because I'm just trying to be like my idol,
Who your idol?
King Von.
What the?
Now that clip that I just played you, I thought was kind of like
this
skit
society,
when I,
this
first
generation
came
is
across it,
fucking
but
lost.
It's actually real. Here we have a
The
young
fuck?
black boy around the age of 10 or 12 being asked about riding around
That
with
nut
one man
ass
on a
cut.
robbery spree. He's bragging about having been to juvie, how he hurt his teacher, and that King Von influenced him to be this way. And by the way, the title of this YouTube short, which is over 5 million views, is Crazy
That's failed parenting, by the way. Don't get it misconstrued with nothing else.
and chased his teachers with scissors. Now the question I had when I seen this video was, why is this adult male in the car making these suggestions to this kid? You know, that's a whole nother issue, right? But this is something we don't talk about often enough. It's not just thousands. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of young people, might be in the millions at this point, adopting a similar way of thinking, being, and moving. And sadly, most of them are young black teens. But then again, like we stated, it's not a race thing, but more of a cultural thing. We're gonna dive into that later. And for the more mature crowd watching this video, right, who may not be on social media or even have, let's say, young nephews, nieces, or children growing up in this, you know, new age of social media, a lot of you guys might actually be confused and completely in the dark about this YN mindset that I'm talking about. Maybe this is the first time you're hearing about this. If that's the case and you enjoy this conversation so far, drop a like on this video, right? For others, especially all the younger people who watch this channel, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And then we have, you know, people like myself kind of in the middle where I'm connected to it in a lot of ways and I see what's happening, but obviously I'm old enough to have enough sense to know how dysfunctional it is for society in general. First, we got to get clear about one thing, which is the YN term is a term that propagates a negative stereotype of black boys. For most people who know about this term and what it means, when they think about it, what probably pops up in their mind visually is a young black teen with a ski mask, maybe a company with a Glock 45, robbing people and being a menace. And that's something I personally think is a problem, right? It shouldn't be like that, but obviously it is, and there's some reasons behind it, and we're going to get into that later on. Now, the term to me isn't
that shit
actually
cool. I don't know what I thought was cool when I was like ages 10 through, I want to say 14, 15. I don't know what the fuck I thought was cool. I think it was games, video games, and chasing girls. That's what my mindset was on. These little niggas trying to switch some shit down, kill motherfuckers, rob motherfuckers, steal cars. Stealing kids is big. Where I'm from, I don't know where y'all from, but the kid boys is big.
Crazy as it sounds, because if it stopped at just being words, there wouldn't be anything to talk about. The biggest problem is the mindset behind it and the energy it carries. For anyone who's heard the term YN, you've also probably heard crash out. Crash out is more of a mainstream way of describing when someone completely loses control, acts off emotion, ego, or pain with no thought for the consequences that may follow. I think Duke Dennis, who's a popular streamer, he explained it perfectly.
Crashing out is making a decision in a split second that could throw your whole life away. That's what crashing out is. Crashing out is, I'm ready to die about it. I'm ready to go to jail about it.
And whole time, it don't even be that serious, because it don't be that serious.
Whole time, the situation is not even worth going to jail about.
What he said.
And shout out to Duke Dennis for the very proper explanation. In other words, you lose all logic and reasoning and let your emotions guide you towards an action that completely messes up your whole life when it could have been avoided. And these two terms, YN and crashing out, they're very connected. One of them, crash out, describes a general way of behaving without taking the person into account. So crash out can be about just about anybody, right? It can be about someone who's 15 years old, or it can be about someone who's 85 years old. YN is, however, catered towards the younger generation, and like we stated, it's often associated with young black teens. Now the question is, what is considered YN behavior? Well, let's put it like this, right? Anything that's reckless, belligerent, and violent. So let me give a few examples, right?
Being a black degenerate, that's being the YN, a black degenerate.
Smash and grabs are a prime example of this. Back in 2020, specifically around the time of the 2020 riots, we saw a spike in a very specific type of crime, and it was called smash and grabs. Smash and grabs, for anyone who doesn't know, is a term that describes a type of crime where a bunch of people run into a store, most times being a designer clothing store or a place where they have expensive jewelry, computers, etc. They break the windows, they run inside, take a bunch of shit, and they just get right. A lot of this was happening in the major cities in the US like New York, Los Angeles, etc. I think a lot that was happening can be connected to the things that were going on politically during that time, yes, but I think the pandemic and COVID-19 was a turning point for sure. I don't know about you, but I noticed how humans became way more, disconnected from each other after 2020 overall, and the way we interacted with each other as humans, right? But also what people were willing to do to others as far as hurting their fellow human beings. So with that shift, I noticed, and maybe you noticed this as well, I noticed how a lot of crimes were becoming way more vicious. You started hearing more and more about old people getting beat up and robbed. Gang violence became way more intense in communities all over the world, and kids started getting caught in the middle of it more often. People started having less and less concern for each other, and individualism, I would say, is at an all-time high right now.
Even though I just got off a 12-hour
around
shift.
2020, this thing called smash and grabs became a common occurrence. Some of y'all might have seen a lot of those videos of a bunch of teens running inside a store. Let's say a clothing or electronic store, stealing a bunch of clothes, laptops, and iPhones. And sometimes they arrive in, big-ass groups, right? All ski-masked up, looking like Pooh Shiesty.
Sunday, a group of thieves stole from the Nike store in East LA. We are blurring their faces here because they appear to be juvenile.
You can't even blame that shit on YNs, though, because LA got that shit bad. Like, motherfuckers stealing and selling it on the street, they got that shit bad.
A flash mob robbery occurred at the Americana at Brand, one of developer Rick Caruso's properties.
Damn.
He says despite their sophisticated security systems and armed guards, it still happens.
Damn.
Sometimes they arrive by themselves, like this man at this Apple store, and they, clean out the whole spot.
Bro, you gotta be some type of broke to do this shit, bro. I mean, of course. But that shit is not cool.
Not only did he clean out the whole spot of all their iPhones, put all the phones in his boxers, but he did all that and literally walked past a police car. If that ain't talent, bravery, and confidence in one, I don't know what it is. But
that couldn't have been police. That was Type Flight Security. That's not even Type Flight Security. Although the image that pops up in people's heads is a black male or teen rocking a Pooh Shiesty ski mask, let's focus on the behavior itself, because that's what we're talking about. The YN mindset is a way of behaving, operating, and seeing the world. You don't think the consequences of your actions will catch up to you. Like this clip of this white kid talking a bunch of trash to a police officer and getting manhandled.
Okay, take out the seat. Yeah. You ain't gonna get shit. Take it off the seat.
They got a
Well, what you
watch.
laughing for? I'm writing your shit. Take it up.
And we're gonna cut it right there because YouTube is very strict these days.
Damn.
Okay, let's just say that
Getting
the young
manhandled
girl
like
the
that.
young man
Now,
begging
me
for
personally,
mercy
as a
on the
grown
ground,
ass man, I
Now,
can't
rap
take
music
that
has been a
shit.
huge proponent of pushing the normalization of the YN mindset, and this is something I've spoken about on here for years in different contexts. We've seen countless young rappers crashing out for absolutely no reason, whether it's home invasions turned deadly in the TK case, or killing one of the most famous drill rappers at the time, Pop Smoke, when you're only 15 years old. That's a concoction of crash out and
Then that nigga got out when he was like 21. I think he did like life juvie. So it's like the way that society, not even society, the way that the rules is set up for the younger people to do shit like that, like steal cars, as many cars they want to, catch homicides, all these extra shits, because it protects them. Ain't that some shit?
behavior. And you often see memes about this kind of thing, but I've yet to see an actual real conversation about what's created this phenomenon and why it needs to be abolished. We're talking about young people in large amounts, acting reckless, belligerent, hurting people in the process without any regard for how it's going to affect their lives and others. And it's also not that the older generation, let's say the 80s babies, weren't on demon time during the crack era, okay? Because they obviously were. Just ask your parents. It's just that we keep on seeing more recklessness and more innocent people getting caught in the middle of it. And a lot of this is being televised to an entire generation of young children through social media. And the number one, commonality that I've observed in this type of behavior is structure or lack thereof. Often when you see this type of behavior in society, either in your own backyard or in close proximity to you or the people you love, you'll notice how a lot of these young boys, right? Specifically young boys, because young girls aren't out here like putting on ski masks and like robbing stores, right?
Yes,
Most
the fuck
times
they are. I mean, they taking Kias. They got Kia girls, Kia boys, all that good shit. They got a whole little clique.
In 99% of the cases, they're not right. You'll notice how a lot of these young boys come from fatherless households, and 9 times out of 10, they were most likely raised by a single mother. A lot of times, we also see another
I was
thing,
raised
which
by a
is they either
single
come from
mama.
an
I'm not out here
impoverished background.
snatching
If
and
not
grabbing
that, at the
shit.
very least, we're talking about a working class background. And here's the thing: what happens when a father is absent in a lot of cases? Well, according to the studies, this has been very well documented. They say the following: research shows when a child grows up in a father-absent home, he or she is 4 times more likely to live in poverty, more likely to suffer emotional and behavioral problems. Children of single mothers show higher levels of aggressive behavior than children born to married mothers. And number 4 is very major because it kind of goes hand in hand with this topic, and that is more likely to go to prison. 1 in 5 prison inmates had a father in prison. And then at number 5, which is very, very, very important for this topic, more likely to commit crime. Study of juvenile offenders indicate that family structure significantly predicts delinquency. Number 8, we have more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol. And then at number 10, we have 2 times more likely to drop out of high school. Now, obviously, not every single teen who comes from this type of background ends up committing brazen crimes or acts belligerent or shows a lack of self-control in spaces occupied by others, right? And the question is, why is that? Well, there's a couple angles to this. First of all, a big one that's not emphasized is personality. You can come from the worst conditions and have every single obstacle against you known to mankind. If you're not naturally inclined to be this type of person, you're not going to put on a mask and start robbing old folks, right? And on the other hand, you can come from a household of love, 2 loving parents. Your name could be Clarence, and if you find the idea of being a menace to society appealing, then that's the path you're going to go down. And then we, of course, have a mix of this along with environmental influences, which we'll touch on later. Aside from that, another aspect of this is, back in the day, there used to be this thing called a rite of passage, something you did that marks the transitional phase of your life into adulthood. And this rite of passage added a layer of accountability to them as people, and it set a precedent that said you're now responsible for your own life, so act accordingly. Nowadays, we don't have any of that. Culturally, things are less structured. I mean, this young new generation doesn't really even know how to follow authority. Just take a look at what's happening with teachers and their students now.
Disrespect from students. In the 3 years that I've been teaching, I've been cussed at countless times. I've been called fat. I've been called a B word.
See, what grade is she teaching? Like elementary, middle school, high school? It sounds like she teaching middle school, cause
a lot of young people from this generation think that following basic instructions like sit down or put your phone down is
a lot of middle schoolers need
their
fucking ass whooped.
Mindset actually comes from loving households. They didn't have to worry about missing meals or going to sleep without a blanket, only showering with cold water, sleeping on the floor, eating rice and beans. You feel me? A lot of them have been spoiled to the point where consistency in their household or outside suddenly turns into a prison, which is why they're often looking for excitement in the outside world. And that excitement leads them down a road where they start acting out in ways that not only put themselves in danger, but the rest of us that want nothing to do with any of this. And a lot of the young boys who fall into this category, right, of kind of having this YN mindset, a lot of them just have no identity. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they want in life. They don't know where they're actually going. And it doesn't help that they don't have any real life positive.
They're fucking followers, because I didn't know. I'm still lost in life. That don't mean I'm about to go out here stealing kids and stealing shit from people and hurting people. They're fucking followers. They see the trend. They see something cool, so they're going to do what they see is cool. Or what they find is cool.
tangible influences around them as a symbol for what they can become. On top of that, as soon as they head over to Instagram, their algorithm is pushing all this low-life behavior content in front of them, whether it's people acting out in public and fighting, or things like videos of people who look just like them, white, black, purple, not color specific, terrorizing innocent people by being belligerent, ruthless, and a menace to society.
Damn.
And that validates their way of living, and it plans to see that
They walk
then
in like
normalizes
that.
this
He
way
can't
of
even do
living
shit
in their
about that.
mind. When you're spending more time with
Wait,
a
oh, he
screen
with
that's meant to
them?
program your mind in a negative way.
I thought
than
he-
with real
I
people.
didn't know
Is it
he
really
was
a
with
surprise
them.
that so many of these young kids are turning out this way? I don't really think so. And speaking of the identity thing, because I think this is worth hitting on a little more. I think this is the core of the issue, actually. Notice how a lot of the, in this case, the YNs who fall in this category, right? They tend to roll in packs. Now, why is it that people who exude this
Fucking
authentic
followers.
mindset don't have the confidence to walk in the streets by themselves? You're supposedly this tough guy who likes to prey on the weak, and you'll beat up anybody who tests you, and you love to cause ruckus in the streets, but you don't have enough cojones to go outside by yourself. Let me tell you why that is. It's because a lot of these young men don't have an identity. They find their sense of security in the group because they don't have a sense of themselves. And the only time they can be themselves is when they're around a pack of 13 other YNs who think just like them. That's how they feel safe being them. They don't have any home training. They don't know what it means to conduct themselves in a public setting and be one with their environment. They're loud, they're aggressive, and they're repelling, honestly. So a lot of this stems from not knowing who they are, a lack of identity. And the natural response to that, rebellion, validated by the approval of the group. So their way of belonging is by being posted up with others who they feel have the same mission as them. The only oxymoron is the mission is obviously dysfunctional and it adds no value to society at all. And the thing is, there's a reason why a lot of these young men are so quick to crash out, catching felonies through stealing, robbing, and in some cases even taking a life.
Why
We've
is that?
seen that in hip-hop, right? To them, catching a charge or crashing out, that's not a loss to them because they never felt like they even had a real place in society to begin with. If you're someone who, let's say you're in this demographic of people who could fall into this, the thing that's kind of going to sway you from moving, all crazy and crashing out and being a YN, right? It's seeing the other paths that are available for you to walk in. Let's say you have a hobby you're passionate about. Maybe you like to sing, rap, write music, paint, health and fitness. Maybe you want to be the next Kai Cenat. Actually, don't try to be the next anybody. Just be you, right? Or you're in trading school, medical school, or you just graduated high school and you have plans to do something with your life. It's the options that are available for you that's going to make you not want to throw your life away by adopting the YN mindset and crashing out. The reality is there's a lot of young people these days who've given up. A lot of these are young men, sadly. And a lot of them, they lock themselves in the basement. They don't participate in life. They get hooked on drugs, alcohol, pornography. They play too much video games, whatever. They hate the world. They hate themselves. They hate women especially, and they're not willing to do anything to change their situation. And yes, there's something to be said about why a lot of those, young men are in those particular situations, but obviously crashing out ain't really gonna solve anything. That's what we're talking about here, right? And then what happens a lot of times in a situation like that is they get involved in the wrong crowd, and then a bunch of people with no identity come together and cause a bunch of chaos that we have to deal with in our communities. So it's on us to clean it up, because when one of these YNs robs an 80-year-old
Is
lady,
it really
and
on
she
us to
slips and
clean it
hits her
up?
head and
Nah,
dies,
fuck that shit. It's on the police to clean that shit up.
that's unnecessary
Talking
pain and
about
suffering that
it's on
people in
us
our
to
communities
clean
have
it
to
up.
deal with.
Hell no.
Energetically and spiritually, there's something that happens to you as a human being when other humans around you are grieving. That energy gets transferred to the rest of the community and it lowers the frequency of the environment around you. I'm talking people walk around more anxious that it could happen to one of their loved ones or them. And I'm talking about, let's say, one of these YNs, doing something that leads to someone in a particular community dying, and then that kind of feeds into the community. That's what I'm talking about, right? People start walking around tense, guarded, doubting that their fellow humans have some kind of agenda when all they're doing is being polite or helpful, and that becomes the new normal. That's how distrust in society among people is created. And not to make this about money, right? But it does cost the government when tragedies happen. And a few examples of that, well, number one, emergency medical care for victims of violence. That is funded by the taxpayers, us. So it by default becomes a public burden. Number two,
Yeah, I did not
the
know
police
that.
actually has to investigate the crimes, which that's an expense. And something that's kind of connected to this, which is, the average cost, and that's number three, the average cost of housing a juvenile in a detention center in the United States is over $200,000 a year. Did you know that? I didn't really know that. That's news to me, right? So when that
For one
17-year-old young boy
juvenile?
decides to catch a felony charge by popping somebody, right, or like doing something crazy, that's a price we got to pay for what he did. And also, number four, okay, let's not forget things like increasing cost of insurance in high crime neighborhoods. And number five, and also this is a big one, businesses taking their companies elsewhere and leaving the areas where, these, in this case, these YNs are terrorizing, right? And obviously it ain't just YNs, doing all this crazy stuff.
no, y'all
That's what we're
still
focusing on in this video, obviously, okay? So
Right back,
you
gotta
get
grab
it.
some.
And then something that's connected to number five, and I'm sure some of y'all have heard about this, right? Which is, haven't y'all heard what's happening to so many, like specifically like black communities in America, whether it's Walmart, Target, or any other major chain that fuels the economy of said neighborhood? A lot of them are leaving these black neighborhoods, and they're leaving a lot of these neighborhoods because a lot of people are stealing, and they're losing so much money to the point where it's not even profitable for them to actually stay in these neighborhoods, right? And it's a shame that
bro. Okay, look, I live in Milwaukee. You feel me? It's a street called Silver Spring, right? They had a Walmart on Silver Spring, but they took the fucking Walmart off Silver Spring. Why? Because motherfuckers keep stealing. So at the end of the day, y'all not really hurting. Y'all not really hurting the company. Y'all hurting yourselves. Y'all hurting society. Because now y'all don't have a nice store in the neighborhood where a nice store is really needed. You get what I'm saying, bro?
Folks who aren't a part of all this craziness and all this chaos have to deal with this, and they don't have the funds to move, so they get affected, right? So it's really unfortunate how this is particularly affecting black neighborhoods all over America. A very small minority of our melanated brothers and sisters are,
to the point they're taking our motherfucking pick and save.
People, man, like, I don't know what other way to put it. And obviously, like, most people aren't on this. Like, it's a very, very small minority of people like who are doing this, right? And I know it might feel like this conversation is taking a little bit of a turn, but I think all this is connected, and it goes deeper than just a couple YNs. I'll be honest with y'all too, like, I don't know if this is gonna get better. Like, are things actually gonna get better? Because to me, it feels like the younger generation is getting more belligerent as the years go by. It feels like social media has done a number on their mind.
Nigga like me, I say lock all them little motherfuckers up and reprogram them niggas' minds, because they program right now to do the cool shit, and the cool shit is doing the YN shit. Lock them little niggas up, put them in a rehab program, and then let them go when they learn their fucking lesson.
Algorithms are validating this messed up way of thinking and operating, and there's so many forms of media that are just feeding into the dysfunction as well. If you ask me, I think what we need more of is strong parents, leadership, guidance, structure, you name it. I think that's the medicine to a lot of the issues we've discussed in this video. However, the sad part is someone can grow up having all these things and more, but end up like this. We've seen it in so many different examples. A good example is T.I.'s son, King Harris. He's probably the best example of someone who had every advantage in the book, but still ended up trying to appear as a thug, a gangster, you know, someone who's about it. So there's no guarantees that someone ends up the right way. I know so many parents who've actually done their best, but their kids ended up catching felonies, murder charges. I mean, I know so many parents
fucking rich, my
who
guy.
They did actually do their best, but their kids still ended up catching felonies, murder charges, you name it. I guess in the end, all you can do is just do your best as a parent and hope for the best. Overall, it's also a community thing, if you ask me. We as people, we have to make sure that our respective communities don't get destroyed by this type of behavior. We all got to make sure that we try to hold each other accountable as much as possible, and we actually protect our communities. That's one of the most important things that I think that we as people we can do. Anyway, if you made it this far, drop a little like on this video for the algorithm. If you're new,
hey, real good video. My bad if I'm yawning throughout the whole thing. I'm just tired, that's all, bro. I work a whole 12-hour shift and came to do this. But nah, it's not even about that. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all think the YN pandemic is ruining society? Me personally, I definitely do. Like I said, put them little motherfuckers in jail or a rehab program, and then don't let their ass out until they have rehabilitated. That's how I see it, bro. Because they brainwashed by social media. They brainwashed by school. They brainwashed by the shit that they see that's happening around them. And it's only going to get worse if it's getting pushed in their face. Like I said, I think it's propaganda. But I'm going to catch you niggas in the next one. Yes, sir.